This poem is a poem about the death of poetry. And I have a lot of friends that are poets, and they are not going to be happy that I wrote this poem about the death of poetry. But I mean, as far as they're concerned, of course, poetry is not dead. But I'm a teacher, I'm a professor, and I teach a literature class called Introduction to Literature, and there's a chunk of that class that's about poetry. And it's always the hardest thing to teach. Students are just not crazy about poetry. In fact, I give a quiz when we start the poetry unit. And I say, get out a piece of paper, and they all get out a piece of paper. I say, write your name on the piece of paper. Question number one. And my first question is, write down the names of 5 living poets. Well, you ought to hear the groans. Oh my God, you would think, I told them to go kill somebody. Maybe they come up with the name of Shel Silverstein. Shel Silverstein wrote a book of children's poems, and a lot of moms read these poems to him. But Shel Silverstein has been dead for years, or they'll come up with Robert Frost. Robert Frost, for God's sakes, he's been dead for decades. They cannot come up collectively. All of them together cannot come up with 5 living poets. So I say, okay, question number two, a lot easier. Give me the names of 5 dead poets. I mean, you think they could come up with 5 dead poets? I mean, there's hundreds of really famous poets. They cannot do it. I mean, maybe Shakespeare, maybe somebody thinks of Emily Dickinson or Robert Frost. That's it. Collectively, all 25 students maybe can come up with 5 or 6 dead poets. So that's why I say, poetry is dead, or at least it's on life support. So I wrote this poem about it. I personified poetry. I call it, it's a female, my character of poetry is actually a female woman, and I call her Posy. Posy, is a really old-fashioned name for poetry. So here it is. It's called Poetry Dreams of Her Death. You've kind of got to imagine that she's been called in for emergency surgery. Poetry dreams of her death. Sometimes I dread that I am spread atop a mobile bed and wheeled into a room. Doom, I presume, in costume? The anesthesiologist, 2 eyes that pant, a hairless wrist, slips the hose between my lips. The nurse observes the blips. Can Posy speak? Her pulse is weak. Inhale, please. I fear I have to sneeze. Then do. Achoo! Chant back from 10. Then 10 and 9 and A. Did I say 6? Or something sticks. And is there doubt? No, she's out. Her skin's so clear, I know. Cut here. Do scan that nurse. Her rhythm's getting worse. Her insurance plan. Does anyone... She doesn't scan. No? Oh, is it block? Try shock. Hold her head. She's dead.